All right, let's speak now to SABC News reporter Canny Maphanga, who has more on this story. They've promised to meet the deadline, have they?
Well, good afternoon to you, Bongiwe, and to the viewers at home. At this stage, we're unable to confirm whether the DA is in possession of those records yet. But as you've correctly stated, the ANC did say earlier at 11 a.m. this morning that they intend to comply. We did try to reach Dr. Lion Schreiber from the DA, and we suspect that he may be in consultation with the legal department right now and wasn't able to take our call. But however, in the next few minutes, we will understand whether they are in possession of those cadre deployment records dating back to the 1st of January 2013.
And I suppose a lot of us are waiting to see what's contained in those documents. But I mean, I suppose that's going to be the most interesting part. But the ANC is now saying that you need to also, in accordance with the law, protect those individuals who did not consent to their names being made public. So what does this then mean for how these documents could potentially be released if they are released to the public?
Well, Bongiwe, what you're talking about is a statement earlier today which stated that there were precautions or provisions taken, and the average reading of that may mean that perhaps it could be a redacted version that the DA does receive, one which doesn't have the names of the different persons that may have been discussed in those minutes. And I think that would defeat the purpose of the DA's exercise, which is to achieve that final bid of declaring cadre deployment unconstitutional. And if they are arguing that a lot of these appointments in the past were not based on the principle of meritocracy, then they would need to know who was deployed. So I think if that is the case, if they are given records that are redacted or missing critical information that they need, then you can expect the DA to go back to court and challenge that, because it defeats the purpose of the exercise. Because when Dr. Lion Schreiber made that application in the first place, it was in terms of PIA, and it was to assist him with his oversight work in Parliament, as well as with the DA's bigger pursuit to have cadre deployment declared unconstitutional, because the political party has attributed most of the SOE failures to this long-standing policy.
And I suppose, I mean, one would then wonder what happens now, because if this matter goes back to the courts, and should they not receive the information that they're looking for, it looks like now it could also be a long drawn-out process, especially when you think about their own case that you just mentioned now that is still coming up. And because this particular issue of cadre deployment is one that's likely to take center stage now during the elections as well as after, possibly.
Well, during the 3-year-long court process, I don't recall the ANC raising this issue of the names being kept private, but I do recall the DA in their long battle making it quite clear that once they received those records, they intended to make them public. So it presents another barrier for the DA, because it would be difficult to decipher what exactly is going on if you cannot see the full information and it's not fully transparent. And then there's the argument of, well, is it an invasion of or rather an infringement of the Popeye Act if you know the name and you know the purpose and who was deployed? There's a lot of those arguments that are going to take place, and it's likely to end up with another legal battle if that is the case. If we come up with records that aren't giving or painting a full picture of what happened dating back from January 2013, when the current president was chair of that committee.
And I suppose it's going to then be interesting to see how it all plays out, because if it goes back to the courts, it could also help us in terms of clarifying some of the gray areas as to what information can then be made public and what information cannot be made public, especially when it comes to the public interest, because the Democratic Alliance, as you say, they say that they want it for their own oversight role, and they say they want to chart a way forward when it comes to some of the policies in the future. But now, how then do you determine what happens here? And I suppose it'll be interesting if it goes back to the courts then.
And I think that will be revealed when the DA is able to confirm any further information, as we have passed the deadline, 5 p.m. And we do expect for those records to be handed over, because the ANC itself committed to meeting that deadline. And should the DA find that what they've been presented with may fall short of the bigger bid for transparency or to have the long-standing policy declared unconstitutional, then you can probably expect further action from the official opposition regarding this.
I suspect you're still going to be at the office a little while longer to watch this particular story for us. But Canny, let's see then what happens if you are able to get some answers as to whether or not the deadline has been met in this particular story, because a lot of people are watching with keen interest to see what happens now. That is my colleague there, SABC News reporter, Canny Maphanga.